What's up, Army? Welcome back to Redemption 46 Studios. I'm Nick.
I'm Keith.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Jarek.
And I'm Zach.
You know the vibes. Y'all seen the picture. Y'all seen the thumbnail. Y'all know why y'all here. Jimin, Interlude, Dive. Make sure you dive and hit that subscribe button and become a real redeemer today. Also, if you're trying to swim into some better content, jump into the Patreon where you can like dive into some. It's like crazy for sure. You can be set free in that bitch.
Promise.
Face off.
Part 2.
Make sure you guys jump on the Patreon for exclusive content, album reviews, more dope BTS stuff. No long talk. Just
Jimmy
dive
Fallon
into this.
on there too.
Well, for sure. Let's turn you up in the headphones a little bit too, Jimmy. We can give you the respect that's due. Cause ooh, I'm about to die.
3 for 3. Let's see.
The cops is not. Gotcha.
Already loving the production.
Dive bar. Yeah, that was a real interlude.
That was a real interlude.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I get it though. He dove into that drink right after a performance.
So,
Yeah, I love the
if
instrumentation.
you would close your
The
eyes
beginning especially.
and
That
just
interlude was
enjoyed it.
played right after Face Off and right before Like Crazy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it kind of makes sense for Like Crazy if he was pouring the drink up that night before.
Wow,
Then the next day he went crazy.
there's a story there.
Nah, I like it though. It's funny too. It felt like somebody accidentally still had like their mic on or something. It was just kind of like going.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely got the vibes of whatever show was going on or whatever performance was going on. It was kind of like the wind down, and then from the wind down, you hit the car up, and then like you said, dive bar. Honestly, too, is where my mind went because you can hear them pouring it up, ironically. But no, I thought that was a decent interlude, and it makes sense to kind of go in between there. Normally with BTS in general, an interlude ain't an interlude.
It's like a song.
Yeah, those be like kind of soft songs. So it really was interesting for this to just real life be an interlude. But yeah, that's my takeaway from it.
No, I felt like a Cudi joint or Genuine's first album had a lot of interludes like this, just from transitioning one song to the next, but almost seamlessly doing it to where it's clean. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the instrumentation kind of led into the beginning of the next song, so it almost sounded like one seamless track.
It's funny.
Kanye does it a lot.
We had that convo. You mentioned that before with something. Where you
What,
was
all
like
of the lights?
yeah, I forget what it was. Where the interludes be so clean on the album, it cuts right into the song almost, and you can't even hear the distance. We just was talking about that before.
Yeah.
I think it's when you're talking about vinyls and stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. Yeah.
Like
How
the
long
8-minute
they are.
tracks and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Yeah.
But yeah, not to step on your point, but I just
No.
it's funny you mentioned that.
It's cool. But It definitely. I love the sound design. You kind of get the vibe that he's coming from a show, and then stepping off stage, and you hear the car engine sound up, drive off, and then you hear drinks being poured. You kind of get the idea, but the instrumentation, as far as like midway through it, the strings start coming in, and more of the digital started to fade out, and more of the actual practical wood instruments and strings started to come in. It's very
you
good
can
sound.
actually play this joint in the background.
Interlude the discussion.
Yeah.
Definitely like the warpy sound. It's like the whole show's a blur. Like it's just so rehearsed. Oh wait, or maybe
Before.
yeah, I'm about to say maybe before, because I was a knock on the dressing room. Yo, it's time to
like,
hop on
yeah.
stage. Like 10 minutes. Excuse me, Dougie.
Or imagine, Keith, if you almost playing it like it's a movie or something like that. In movies, how before the show you could almost have this type of energy where you thinking of everything almost.
You know what?
Exactly.
As soon as you said that, I was like him sitting in front of a mirror,
It's like-
just like kind of zoning out, and then it gets broken by the knock.
Yeah,
And that's why the knock is as loud as it is, because it's meant to be that
To
thing that
almost, like,
alerts
wake
you and
you
breaks
up.
you away from kind of that trail of thought.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to step on your point, but there you go.
Yeah, for the most part. This is dope, John.
Yeah. Anything else someone did?
No, this is really a dope interlude. Like y'all said, this is an actual interlude. In between little sidebar convo or whatever. It's just dope.
It was a great unwind. You're diving into something for sure. I think it's perfectly placed on the album because it just makes it gets you prepared for a fun night, a fun weekend, which is the next song. I just like listening to this. So meditative.
It's like leaving work.
Hashtag.
No, that set me
to
free.
this.
Part 2.
Shout out Mary Jane Uzumaki.
Especially when we had to go in the building. Bruh, leaving that building set me free.
I do like those higher synths and everything too. Where it's
So
just,
far, 4 for 4.
it sounds magical in a sense.
It's not
too,
missed. Man, the interlude is better than some people. Whole song.
People like, we worked hard.
Incoming.
I said what I said.
We didn't just dive into our career.
Yeah, I'm good.
How'd you feel, Kurt?
Yeah, honestly, there's quite a few things to kind of read into this, knowing that it's all again presented just as an interlude, like just all kind of auditory and everything. So I like that they really did tell an entire story, because even the task of kind of having to go about that, I just found that really interesting how they were able to kind of make all that in and of itself just feel like you could close your eyes and zone out to everything that's being portrayed. Did you turn that down for a second?
It's normally Jarek that likes to have everything blasting.
No, it's fine. But it's
Me too.
no, but they're I like that they basically use everything, like just the task of kind of going in behind the scenes and just like how you would kind of go about portraying that story. I think they did a great job with that, and as you had said, the warping kind of aspect, because it's like if a car's like traveling at a high speed, you get like the kind of, if the window's cracked or whatever, you feel like the buildings or the wind kind of hitting against objects.
It hurts sometimes.
As you're going the other way. But basically, I like that they convey that, but in the dive sense, where it's like, instead of being like, across, it's more of like a fall, like the dive aspect, where it's like you're kind of crashing down. So I think that was really well portrayed, and just kind of a little bit of what they had said, kind of just knowing, because initially that's really what I was thinking too, is that it's the whole, the mental kind of, trivial thoughts that you're going through, and then basically that knock on the door right before a show. So when you go through that, right before the show aspect, I was thinking it's like that, and then, the almost like euphoria or whatever, like kind of being on stage, and then afterwards wanting to kind of, drown, the trauma or the sorrows or whatever. But knowing that, after the Fallon thing, what he had said as far as the stages of the pandemic and everything, I wonder if he was partially fantasizing about going on stage, because you couldn't have audiences there, to where it was like I'm like searching for that thrill or that high, to where I can't have it, and therefore I have to, you know, drink to kind of, you know, miss that feeling. So at least that's kind of what I'm thinking as I'm like, you know, processing it now.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
But even as Keith had said, you know, the term dive bar is like, you know, knowing that a dive bar is somewhere you go to almost not be around people, or like a bar that's like kind of more dead, so to speak. So I think that's interesting too, if that's like the place you want to go to either not be recognized or not be bothered, to where you're not going to run into people. So that would be interesting nonetheless. But I do think it's interesting that it's like a double entendre with all the kind of titles that we're getting and everything in the album. And even Dive, as far as like, you know, how they run such a high pedestal, like just that inevitable kind of fall of like, you know, is this where it all ends or everything? Just kind of, you know, those questions. And to really be able to convey all that without saying virtually anything in an interlude, I just think it adds great context to an album. And, you know, whoever did kind of the work behind the scenes, you know, to aid that, you know, did an incredible job as well.
Being between Face Off and Crazy.
Like Crazy?
Like Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I know in Face Off he was talking about like being lied to, or, you know, you're taking away everything I worked for. He might, especially in the pandemic, be talking about how the government kept changing up the rules, and you can do this and you can do that, and taking away everything means taking away Army from him, because they couldn't do shows, they couldn't do anything, like they were kind of just stuck there. And that's what he was kind of reminiscing on. And maybe there was like this break. Perfect example, like if I'm doing a video and I'm doing like one of those long Michael Jackson type, making a whole album into a video, you could have maybe the end song, like, or the end of Face Off, with him just like kind of reminiscing on what COVID or the pandemic or the shutdowns have taken away from him, as he's kind of alluding to in the song. Then you have like this break, and then he's reminiscing about the shows and everything else. But, you know, also in Face Off, he's talking about just like, I don't want to be sober, let's just get fucking drunk. So he goes out into a dive bar. It's almost like, and then That's Crazy is kind of like him at the bar, or him like kind of letting loose or feeling free because of the alcohol, because of the inebriation. But
save some for your album review. Hey, you know,
no, but dive could also be like a deep dive, like a mental deep dive, like just being stuck. Because I mean, there's some times where we just sit there and we just get stuck in thought, and we just kind of like, damn, how do we get here?
I think that's
like
what
you said,
I
the
think.
warping in the beginning too.
Yeah, I think that's what some of the album is gonna probably be about as well. Really doing a deep dive, looking yourself in the mirror, looking in your face, and really just reevaluating like who you are as a person, and just, you know, all those type of questions that you ask yourself with growth, especially during COVID did that for a lot of people.
For a lot of people. Because you had nobody else. It was just you.
You know what I mean? People found themselves, you know, during COVID. And I know obviously it's a fucked up time. You know, there's a lot of deaths and other stuff too. But it was people who jumped into professions that they wanted to get into. People who found out like they weren't living life the way they wanted to live life, and made like a lot of, you know, serious changes.
All the things you took for granted, you realized how quick everything could be taken away. To where it was like, you know, anything that you were kind of hindering on yourself as far as like, you know, steps you wanted to take towards a better future or anything, you were confronted with that kind of fork in the road.
So 2020, I can guarantee you is so many people were soul searching, and that's what a lot of Face feels like. Is some of it seems like it's soul searching a little bit, but you know, I really want to hear what Alone is, to kind of start to see a little bit more of the complexities that's being like talked about on certain tracks.
To tell you the truth too, knowing that the first essentially half of the album that we've checked out to this point, you know, with the interlude included and everything, and the touches of like, you know, alcohol and just kind of vices, I suppose. If this is Face and everything, you know, the latter half of the album would probably have to be the sobering up and actually dealing with it sort of thing, because this is all about kind of escaping or getting away from it seemingly, to where, you know, the album being Face and everything, I assume that the next track, which is Alone, if I'm not mistaken, that would have to be kind of the midpoint, you know, turning point kind of in the album, not just because of the track list obviously, but you know.
Yeah, I also want to hear it too with because Like Crazy has an all English version as well.
Oh yeah, that's
to kind of hear. I doubt it's gonna be huge changes in it, but just you trying to think of how much of the song was already in English?
No, I'm trying to think. So Alone is the only song we haven't heard yet.
Yeah. So you get Alone, and then Like Crazy, the English version.
I'd rather hear it in Korean. Just because the translation ain't gonna be the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's gonna take something away.
But I wonder. Well, I don't know. Maybe it might just. They don't have it labeled as almost a bonus track. So I just would want to know, like, what would be the point of it?
So I do know, but it's so rare that they do that. So I know a group called Hidden Cambria, one of my favorite groups. They took the same song and they did 2 versions of it. They told 2 different stories with the same instrumentation, same melody, everything. I don't see many people doing that, and I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
Yeah,
I doubt that's what's going to happen.
But it's a possibility, though. I don't know. But Set Me Free being the last track. Technically on the album, and he's still talking about Hennessy at night, you know what I mean, fuck all the ops, I like, you know what I mean, so I don't know if it's a final story.
I was about to say that this could just I don't want to say be open ended, but
yeah, this could be like part 1 of maybe 3. Like the downward spiral, then we have like the leveling out, and then we have the ascension.
We got Face right now. The next joint could be called like Eyes, or something. I'm paraphrasing this shit.
Yeah,
but you get where I'm going at though. Eyes on the windows.
Like,
to the
comment,
soul.
subscribe.
Eyes on the windows to the soul. It's only right you go there after Face, because he has to see your reflection. It's like, nah, but no. In all seriousness though, and shit, like
filters.
These are the filters. I'm calling a lie. But no, in all seriousness, if that's what it is, then that's fine. And obviously Alone will say a lot, because if Alone is on the same type time, then essentially you have just kind of, I don't want to say like a double down of things contextually told maybe a different way, but it is just kind of a double down, because you can argue Face is a double down of Set Free is a double down of Like Crazy, and honestly contextually it's phrased different. It all fits. But if we were being like those people, who was like, break the song down in 2 lines, you'd be like, oh, I feel like I have a fake persona and I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And it'll just be kind of like that. So all that to say, I'm very interested to hear if Alone is just going to honestly be totally different as far as subject matter goes.
Yeah, and I mean everything. So especially this being only 5 songs, 6, really. Yeah. But everything is not going to probably catch up from COVID to now, so we might not get an ascension. Jesus Christ! But also based on Set Me Free, we know we're not going to get an ascension.
Shit, what if he ain't done from that? You know what I mean? Like he ain't never. He was. Some people still fucked up from COVID.
Unless you just unless you take the video at its face, and at the end of it when he drops the darkness, and he becomes like ascended into a figure in white, essentially like freeing himself from all the things that he was dealing with through COVID. If you want to take that as ascension, listening to the music, I wouldn't get that from the song.
No,
watching the video,
double down on
I would get
too.
that.
Even that last image, and because I didn't know that Set Me Free Part 2 was the last track on the album and everything. So just kind of going off of that, the last image in the MV itself, you see him in the white and everything, but you also see there's no light on his face; it's shadowed. So if it's the album's face and you didn't light up his face, but you had him like kind of dressed as though he overcame it, you're visually communicating that there's some kind of moral ambiguity kind of with the resolution of everything. So I think that's a perfect way to kind of sum that up too.
Yeah, with the way the choreo was on Set Me Free, I don't know why. I guess I was too into like that butterfly theme that whatever was going on from this was more of the quote unquote like cocoon stage, and when everything was said and done, he was like set free and blossomed into the butterfly and like kind of left.
Well, COVID was a cocoon for a lot of people. It isolated you. It kept you nestled and protected, but you were still away from everything and away from everybody.
This is the best reaction channel on the planet.
Kind of just trapped there.
Becomes suffocating as opposed to liberating.
Hate you.
We fucking got one.
You're not doing it.
Right now, I want y'all to save some of y'all juice though. But y'all good?
That's where the gears are turning.
Yeah. All right, then I'm ready to jump into Alone. Jump in the comments. Let us know how y'all felt about this one. We're literally about to jump into Alone. Hope we're not alone on this page. So hit the subscribe button and become a real redeemer today.
I've heard it.
But yeah, Bob, we love y'all. Peace.